So we seriously set up our first date, and she said she scripted exactly what we could do when we first met each other. It would be kind of a gentle hug. And I said, well, I think we ought to at least have a polite kiss.
And so we crafted our way of being physically intimate.
We need to say there's a sex toy industry.
I just
I'm so relieved.
I
don't know what she was going to say.
just turned 81 day before yesterday.
Oh, happy belated birthday.
Thank you very much.
She caught up with me. I'm 85, so I'm still 4 years ahead of her. I got 5 years ahead of her, and I didn't like that because I was too big a gap.
So then I had a birthday. It was fixed that.
I want to ask you something, and if you don't mind, because the both of you really experienced this tremendous loss before finding each other. And looking back, what helped you remain open to love instead of really allowing that grief and that loss to close that chapter of your life?
He had myasthenia gravis, a neurological thing that's hard to diagnose. And so he had all kinds of symptoms for several years before we finally got the diagnosis. By the time that he was difficult to care for, by then we knew what it was, and I was most definitely resolved to the fact that that he would die of this. As a matter of fact, we had our 50th wedding anniversary, and I said, I never did have a diamond. I want a diamond. And so he got me a diamond ring and died 2 months later. I think it helps when one is resolved to something. And then it was 2 years. So there was plenty of time to grieve. Same with you about.
I'm getting on my story. This is yours. I'm practicing mine right now.
I'm turning it over to you.
Oh, no. Mine's a whole lot different story, Chuck, because as you know from the book that we're going to talk about, I was taking care of my daughter, and she had Alzheimer's, and I was taking care of her with my wife. We had been together 55 years. And so when Lynn had Alzheimer's, we moved to live with her. Then we moved into assisted living. And at that point, we knew she was going to be comfortable. We had a lot of friends. And so we started to live the retired life that we were going to get back to, because we'd been retired for 16 years. And then she was immediately diagnosed with 9 months of pancreatic cancer. And so then what I did was spend a year taking care of her in the process. And the rest of the family was spending more time taking care of Lynn. And that was a tough haul. And so I lost her. And then when I lost her, I said, I had promised I was going to write a book for her. So that's it. I'm going to write a book for you, and I'm going to take care of you. And that's all I did. So I was spending that as a focus. So that was in 2019. So I started podcasting, and not podcasting, but Facebooking and a lot of Instagram and stuff like that. So we were putting that out. Well, that was going along fine until about 2021. They put Lynn on hospice. And when that happened, I panicked because suddenly I didn't know what was going to happen, except I wasn't going to have Lynn to focus all my energy on. And I didn't know if I had grieved right. Was that okay? So I got all messed up, trying to understand that. So that's when I went online dating, because I thought if I could go online dating and learn what it takes to date for 2 years, which I figured it would take after being out of service for 55 years, I can figure it out in 2 years. So I'd gone online and right at the time that she went on hospice. Well, she got off hospice. We found out the reason she was on was different story. So bang, there I was online. And, but then I got prostate cancer. So I thought, well, and I'd done some dating online. Anyway, am answered the question yet?
I don't know. Chuck, did he answer the question?
What happened was I decided I wanted to find some dating. And at that stage, a lot of my friends and Lynn's friends who were helping take care of Lynn were worried about me because I was this solo man and I was going to lose my daughter. So they were trying to fix me up with dates. So they were setting me up and get one woman said, my mom, we've been trying to figure out how to get you to meet my mom so the two of you would marry up because I think you'd like to, but she just fell in love with another guy. So you're out of luck on that one. Well, let me know if it falls through. So, I was interested, but I had some dates, but it was just the time period. And she told me, if you're going to learn how to date, you've got to watch Grace and Frankie. So I thought so every week I sat down and watched an episode of Grace and Frankie. I had episodes for others too. So that was it. I worked with my Lynn. I worked with her. And I posted and everything. And then at night, I had an exciting night watching Grace and Frankie every week, once a week.
Oh, go ahead, Carol.
Well, as I say, so I was talking with one of my friends, and several times I heard myself say, I wonder what it would be like to be with a man again. And pretty soon I had to listen to myself. Listen to myself. And so I realized I'd have to put myself out there some way. And that night on TV, an ad came on for OurTime.com. So I said, oh, okay. So
Which is for people 55 and over, right?
Yeah, right. So I went on and I developed my profile. I wanted to make sure that I got somebody who was politically aligned with me, shall we say. So one of the questions that you could choose to answer, they have a bunch of questions and you choose 3 of them. And one of them that I chose was, tell about a time when you got in trouble. So I said I was arrested in the Pentagon in 1969, demonstrating against the Vietnam War.
She's a felon.
Perfect. For about a year I was, until appeal. On appeal, we were found not guilty. Anyway, so that's what I put online. What else did I put online?
You went to Africa 3 times.
Yeah. Tell about travels. So I thought, well, that will help reinforce my political orientation. So I said I'd visited my college roommate in Cameroon several times and studied Spanish in Guatemala. And I thought that would communicate what I wanted to by although being indirect. And then I saw his profile. And what jumped out at me about his profile, one of the questions was, how would you want to be remembered? And he said, do love mercy, do justice, and walk humbly with your God. Well, I immediately knew that was from the book of Micah. In the Bible, he didn't say it was from Micah, but I responded and I said, I liked your quote from Micah. And then he said,
you're up, Jim.
I'm throwing it back at you.
I thought, Micah? How did she know it was Micah? I didn't say it was Micah. She must be reading the Bible. And look at that. She was arrested in the Pentagon opposing the Vietnam War long before I was. She was in Africa 3 times. I've been in Africa. She was in Guatemala. I've been in Guatemala on missions. She had a nice profile. And then when she said she knew about Micah,
wow.
I thought, Chuck, I put that out there 6 months earlier. No, 8 months earlier. That's when I started. And not one person read that and said anything about it. The question was, how do you want to be remembered? I thought that was the most important question on my profile. So how do I want to be remembered? I wanted, incidentally, listen carefully, do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with my God, which is the way it's supposed to.
I would switch mercy and justice. I don't know. Love, I don't know. Anyway.
And it's the reason for that is she leads with mercy and I lead with justice. Seriously, it's a psychological bent on a profile because she hasn't disclosed all of her stuff for me. So I thought, wow, she seems interesting. I started emailing, and she's a good writer, graduate with a degree in English literature. She's pretty good. So all the time I'm writing my book, at the end, she's telling me I'm not a good writer. So I don't know how you're still together. So I said, I'm writing a book.
He's throwing it back to you.
I think so.
Well, hey, let me ask you this then, because, as we get older and we want to get back into the dating pool, there's got to be misconceptions about, do people have what it takes mentally, physically to get back into dating or companionship, and is finding that happiness later in life, dare I say, worth it? So are there misconceptions about all that stuff?
Well, I'm sure they are, specifically about online dating, all of the dangers, and they're real. But we were both cautious.
Mm-hmm.
We communicated within the app until we were confident that the other person really was a person and not a fraud.
And she didn't have a whole, I wondered what it would like to be with a man. That's a hell of a range. She had a lot of choices to make.
So
Yeah.
true.
I don't know if that answers your question. But we talked through the app, and then we Zoomed.
But you picked an app that was over 50, for people over 50.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big start. We weren't out on, those people were different.
Mm-hmm.
And they had all sorts of locks on how you communicated with the person. And so because it was over 50, they had a lot of security for you. All you have to do is raise your thumb, and that would be simply a message that somebody liked your profile. So then you look at their profile and you look at it. And so there were a number of steps that you go through before you can trust that person doing a little bit more. And that's what we did, a couple of things. So I felt real comfortable with those. Because I think I was online a lot more than you were. And I had a couple of dates with a woman who did that kind of thing. Where was our first date? Right in the middle of a table in a shopping mall at 3:00 on Sunday afternoon. And she would be wearing a blue sweater. And, and I knew from her profile, the way I found out about her, she said, I said, I'm an INTJ. And she said something. And then, so I whipped back and she responded to it. So we both knew something about the Myers-Briggs type indicator.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So right there, we got an educational level and an insight, a psychology level that we could trust each other with. And so that's what we did. We just sat down in the middle of a shopping mall and talked for an hour. She's tapping my stomach leg and says, "It's your
Enough
turn."
of her. Enough of her.
She's cool. I want to tell.
You two are reminding me of that song, the Pina Colada song. In a way, you know the song. Bum,
We do know that song.
Bum, 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 bum. Yeah.
That's it.
Well, when I knew that I could trust him, I checked out his Facebook, and he had all of these postings about caring for his daughter. And so he was clearly a person of deep compassion. And then when we Zoomed, he said to me, and he came up close to the camera, and he said, "Carol, when you first held your baby, looking in your baby's eyes, that's the way it is with my daughter Lynn now. Here she is, has Alzheimer's in a care facility, and he is looking at her and saying, wow."
I need to ask you both this because Jim, you care for your wife and your daughter, right?
Yeah.
And Carol, you correct me if I'm wrong with this. You served as a hospice chaplain and a priest. Did you?
Yes, I'm an Episcopal priest.
Okay.
My husband was an Episcopal priest. Yes.
Okay. I want to ask the two of you then, what caregiving, since you both did caregiving, really taught each of you about love that most or many people don't understand until uh, they're either living it or it's too late.
You ask hard questions. For
It's
me,
good.
it's at the very core of who I am. The empathy, the regard, the respect of other people, wanting to know them, wanting to get beyond the shallow, how's the weather stuff, and enjoying knowing people more deeply. Whether or not I was in a pastoral relationship with them. When I was in a pastoral relationship with them, um, of course, I wanted to know them more deeply and for them to trust me. So that's all built into that.
Yeah, and it comes from her essence. I mean, I really believe that after a while. It took me a long time to figure out why she couldn't remember that it's do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Mike, she's smarter than that. Why can't she figure that out? And I finally figured it out. She doesn't start with justice. She starts with mercy. That's what she is. She gave me her journal for her 19-year-old as a 19-year-old. And it shows up there just as clearly. She's just in agony about the way the kids are treating each other. And then she took a year off in her.
Unnecessary detail.
I mean, no, the point is that comes from her care.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a very different experience because when Lynn was diagnosed, Dad finally had to quit with all of his community relations stuff and all the stuff that he was doing. And he moved with his wife to Seattle so that we could take care. And Lynn was taken care of by her mom. She loved her mother, and she could not argue with anybody more than she argued with her mother. But that was their relationship because Lynn didn't want to be diagnosed. But Lynn took care of that. And I was the father, the fun lover, the provider, the supporter, patriarch, making sure everything worked right. So she was right there with Lynn face to face, having a much harder time than I had. And then, bang, all of a sudden, I had to take care of Karen. Then I got done with her, and I knew the only thing I could do to stay together was to take care of Lynn. So I moved 2 blocks from her, and that's what I did. I took care of Lynn. And so I went from being a patriarch, overseer, father, to a very, very personal, warm, loving relationship with her, to the point where she said, I'm the best dad in the galaxy. She said it, and she told it to the staff. She told it to her friends. They all said it, because I was writing daily and with her. I didn't. That's another story. But it was, so it was there at the same time. I wasn't sure I took care of Lynn and not Karen enough and did grieve enough. That's another story. Okay.
But
Yeah.
both of us,
You have a lot of stories.
both of us believe that care is at the heart of finding meaning in life. And
That's well said.
when you don't care, I mean, I don't understand what life would be for if not for caring for, not necessarily taking care of, but caring about, caring for the people and those deeper relationships that you get when that's what matters.
Yeah, listening to the two of you, I mean, what really comes out strongly to me is care and love. And to me, it's almost like there's one care. You care, but there are different types of love, but nonetheless, you care for that person, whether it's that intimate love or that other type of pastoral love, whatever it may be. But it definitely sounds like love, care, love is very, very strong.
Look, I think you're right. I think they're separate. Care and love. You could take care of somebody without the love. It's going to be a disaster.
I do feel that a lot of people, at least that I know, are all mid late 50s and older who have already taken care of somebody or who are just tragically lost somebody in another way, but they're asking themselves, do I go on to love somebody else because I either promise my spouse that I'm going to love them forever, or I don't know if I'm cheating on my spouse? That kind of thing.
Both of our spouses made it clear to each of us that it's fine. Find
Mhm.
somebody else.
I think the living person is the one that has the hard time dealing with that. They feel guilty. At least the friends that I have conversations with, they kind of feel guilty.
I didn't have that experience
Mm-hmm.
because I just shifted it to Lynn. Bang. I just spent all the time with her. It was only when I realized I'm going to lose Lynn that I thought, whoa. And so, and that was about 2 years later. So by that time, my big question was, have I grieved enough? Have I really resolved that? That was a whole different question. I didn't feel guilt, except for wondering whether or not I was avoiding the guilt. So that was hard. I had to learn, really look, and that's another issue. I had to go back and find out how I grieved. Because if you know how you grieved and whether you've grieved completely, then you can go without guilt. And that was easy for me once I realized, whoa, I've really, we did a number of things. Karen and I did a number of things together to make it really clear. She communicated back to me the way that I had loved her. And then the question was, well, did I grieve sufficiently?
And a lot of people don't know how to grieve.
I think that's true.
And that's when I learned. I looked back and I did 7 or 8 things that I really felt good about when she was alive, and even after she died. And I thought, well, that's pretty good grieving. And I felt complete. I haven't read those 21 pages, single page. Did I tell you about the 21 pages?
No, you didn't.
I didn't.
No.
On my first date, when she told me how she grieved with her husband, she had a tough time dealing with his illness. And it was just really a tragic illness. She was struggling with it. And so she took out a sheet of paper and just started writing. And she wrote 19, 18 pages, single line, to her husband, talking to him. And she looked at me and she said, I put it away and I haven't read it since. But it cleared it for her so that she knew what she had done. So I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. So we set ourselves up for a second date. And by that time, I had written a 22-page, one single line, talking about what I had done in my communication with him.
Telling Karen what you needed to say to Karen.
I talked to Karen. It was to Karen. I put it away and I haven't read it. But again, I felt clean in the fact that I was telling it to Karen. I wasn't writing it to anybody else. I haven't showed it to anybody else. I wrote it to her. And so I've got that there in there. And then there were other things that I did that really helped convince me that I did. But once I wrote that, so then we had our second date. And by that time, she was really interested. She wanted me to come out and see her real estate. We have our third date at her place. And I thought, yeah, that'd be great. And I got in the car and I thought, I can't have another date in a social relation. This is crazy. So it took me a week to call her and say, I can't. I have great respect for her. I said, I can't get involved with another social relationship right now because I'm dealing with Lynn. I've got prostate cancer, And she said, you are absolutely right. You take care of yourself. So that was a big way for me to help get over that.
And both of us feel that 2-year time span to allow space was very, very important. It was important for me. I don't know if it's true for men. For me, I had been a we for 50 years. And it was really a healthy thing for me to start thinking of I'm a me. Aside from anyone else, I have an identity, I have a purpose, I'm a me. And it was very healthy for me for a couple of years to learn to say I, and I decide. And I sold his truck. Whoa. And you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's such a good point that you make. It's almost like retirement. I think when people, many times what I heard, they retire and then pretty soon they kind of lose their self-worth because they were tied to a company, a business, and they always had something to do. You get up and you go do. And I think maybe just like marriage, like you said, it's kind of like that we thing. We do this, and it was maybe depends on the marriage, I, but it's a we, and then you lose that loved one. It's just me. What do I do now?
What do I really want? I
Mhm.
especially enjoyed choosing what I wanted to watch on TV without having to negotiate it. That was great.
The small things in life.
Yes, yes. And true solitude. Both of us really appreciate solitude. It's why we have chosen not to live together. We're in the same apartment building, but we don't live together because in that 2-year time, we both learned that solitude is a good thing. Silence is a good thing.
I have never heard anybody approach it that way.
Well, that's basically, she's an artist. She's all sorts of art things around, and we couldn't put our stuff together unless it was a huge apartment. We're in retired living.
In senior living camp.
Senior living, and so there really wasn't anything that was big enough for us to both live in. And frankly, if there were so many legal entanglements, if we got one apartment, because we have a down payment, and then that goes back to the kids, and et cetera. Whose is it? You can't say, well, we'll do habby.
And if we're in an apartment together, a big, expensive one, and he dies, I can't afford to be there on my own. Financial negotiations have been, I think, very healthy and helpful. That's another story. Where was I going? I don't know.
But that's the point. It was just really a legal entanglement to get in there. So we're not married, but we do. Are we going to tell them about the shacking up license, or is that later?
Yeah, we do have a shacking up license.
Oh, let me sit up straight and listen to this one.
Well, Jim is a fan of Lacey J. Dalton. I never listened much to country music. I didn't know her. So he had a picture on his wall. And I said, who's that? And he said, Lacey J. Dalton. And she had signed it for him. And
for Karen and me.
For Karen.
In spirit.
Yes. And so they had gone to a concert.
No, she had.
She hadn't, just you had. Okay, that's incidental. I don't want to get sidetracked on that. So,
well, I went down there because I was lonely.
Oh, well, that is irrelevant. Yeah. After she died, he decided that what am I going to do? I'm going to I'm going to fly on an airplane to Virginia City, Nevada, because that's where this concert is. And I'm going to go to a Lacey J. Dalton concert. And
I met a date.
He did. And so after we've been going together for a number of months, he said, you want to go to Virginia City, Nevada with me to a Lacey J. Dalton conference?
For your Christmas present.
For my Christmas present. I'm going, what? What? It's crazy. Here he is. We're not that intimate yet. And he's invited me to go off on a trip with him,
What?
I can't remember. Anyway, so
it was in our
we get down there.
My knee was a mess because I had surgery and you were taking care of me. Anyway.
I forget timelines. So I said, sure. So we get down there and we're in Virginia City, Nevada, and visiting museums. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a cowboy town.
She used to be a museum director.
He used to be a museum. Anyway. So we went to the museum, and there was, for $1.50 or something, was a shacking up license.
$3.
So, it's $3.
And I paid for both of them.
Whoa, do I owe you on that?
Yeah.
So it's a blank thing, to be filled out. So we bring it home. And my sister-in-law, but part of the form is here in this county in Nevada, I, the county clerk, certified, blah, blah, blah. So we had to think of a county clerk name, right? So my sister-in-law thought of the county clerk's name is
Lucy.
Lucy Morales.
Lucy Morals.
Yeah, it takes a while for people to
Loose
get it.
morals.
Lucy Morales, right? And we fill it out. And then there was, how good is this license? How long is it good for? So we thought, well, you had 50 years, I had 50 years. Well, let's go for 50 again. So it's good for 50 years. And we each have it hanging on our wall in our apartment.
And her brother-in-law was able to print it. We put it in the printer, and it's officially. He scripted it with special font and everything. It's very official. And
I
we
love
have
it.
it hanging, and people walk in, and most of the people who walk in stop and study it for a while.
Yeah, we just
Oh,
think, well, financially as well as legally, it's just too complicated at 80 something with entirely separate finances, entirely separate inheritors, beneficiaries, and so forth. It's just too complicated.
The reason she fell in love with me and could get a whole lot of information about me was because I was out there on Facebook and everything else. So by the time she talked to me, she knew everything about me. Now, I didn't know everything about her. So we're talking about things. We're thinking we're going to go on a date, and this is about 6 days into it, or 3 days into it. And she knows mine. She says, "By the way, for full disclosure, I'm a retired Episcopal priest." And I knew this was 2022. I knew I was going to finish that book. I knew I was going to lose Lynn. I knew I was going to publish it. I knew I was going to talk about it. And when she said she was a retired Episcopal priest, I knew I could see her right in front of the St. Mark's Cathedral. You know where that is in Seattle? Magnificent. And there she was with her robe spreading out. I thought, holy cow. I said, I'm going to be traveling and I'm busy. She says, oh, I like to travel. I'll go with you. Whoa. So I spent the night thinking about what would happen if the two of us presented. So we could open up so many more doors in terms of what I really wanted to make sure we said. And so I said, I'm going to be doing this book, and I'm going to publicize it. We're going to promote it. We're going to talk about it. And that's what I want to do for the next 2 years. And I said, if you wanted to join it, then I think it would be really powerful because we could get to a lot more people. It will open up a lot more opportunities. And so I wanted her to think about it, see what she said. She thought about it for what was it, 4 seconds, 5? She said, I'm all in.
mhm.
She said, I'm all in. We ought to have a date.
We had to meet in
Because
person.
I had said to her, you are more and more forthcoming as an Episcopal priest, tending towards, this is important, tending towards irrepressibility and irresistibility. I could tell you, Chuck, that's my favorite pitch, favorite line I've ever written.
So I told all my friends, he's finding me irresistible and irrepressible. When I told him that, he said, you forgot tending toward part.
And we did that. We made that understanding before we had our first date. And so we seriously set up our first date. And she said, she scripted exactly what we could do when we first met each other. It would be kind of a gentle hug. And I said, well, I think we ought to at least have a polite kiss.
Oh,
So-
if I may ask, and if you could answer quickly on this, both of you, as you age, what is the most important part about love and life and being together?
I think this is really an important question, really an important question.
Being cherished again.
That's a fact. But what she did to me was phenomenal. After we had been dating for, I don't know, 1 month or something, and we have a sexual life. And she said, we need to talk. So we went into her bedroom and her queen bed, and she laid back and she said, I want to tell you everything about me so you know who I am. And she told me what she was ashamed of. And that went on for 45 minutes to an hour.
I had that much shame.
Well, I didn't think so. I thought, holy cow, is that all she's got? You know, I can do better than. At the end of that, I said, okay. So I told her things that I had never told anybody because I was ashamed of. We ended up with a relationship. There's no secrets. There's nothing hidden. We don't have to hide anything. We know each other so completely through shame. And there's the research on that says that's the basis of a really deep, intimate love. If you can be able to be shameless with the person that you love.
The de-shamed process.
So that to me is a blessing I've never known. And what is really comforting at any time. You know, we live in separate apartments, and we have a little ritual that we go through, knock on the door and unlock it and come in. And, you know, there's never, I mean, we can't embarrass each other really in public. We would. So I think that's a fundamental part of what we have. And she taught it to me. She taught it to me.
And understanding that a depth of caring is balanced by the physical part of that. And finding, given the realities of being 80 plus years old, finding and negotiating how is physical intimacy done, given the realities of bodies, conditions, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And so we crafted our way of being physically intimate.
We need to say there's a sex toy industry. And so it was me that, you know, it was lacking on part of the performance. So I did my research on sex toy. We actually trotted out to some sex shops in Seattle. And she said, I'm not going in there. So I go in there. I said, it's okay. You can be safe. There's nobody in there. So she snuck in, but that didn't work. So
they can be pretty seedy places. They can be pretty seedy.
I got to ask, how old were you?
He didn't ask for my ID when I went in. I guess leaning on my cane really helped. No, that's not true. But what I found was there's just all sorts of things. And in the research I looked at it, I thought the best descriptions came from the women who made the products that they were selling.
Which brings us back to Grace and Frankie. There was that one episode where they're inventing the woman's image of the best dildo ever. I don't know if you saw that one. We just laughed and laughed and laughed.
But, you got to read Grace and Frankie. Watch Grace and Frankie.
But the point of that is that there was a negotiation about what satisfies you now at this time in life.
Mm-hmm.
And what pleasures you, and how can I pleasure you, and how can I pleasure you in a way that's different than 50 years ago.
So, when we get older, we don't have all that time. So rather than playing around and trying to figure it out, be upfront and tell the person so you know.
Well, I'll tell you this, she gives me great back rubs, and that's how we start.
It's been intimate and very good for me. I mean, I've gotten a lot of information from the two of you, and I'm sure the world now knows. I want to say that this has been a lot of fun. It's been very enjoyable, and there's a lot of lightness, but also a lot of important things that you've talked about. So I got to say thank you very much. And I definitely look forward to, we'll call it a part 2 of this, because we're going to be diving into the care portion about Alzheimer, dementia, because that is something that's very important. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to talk about that in our next conversation, if that's okay.
That'd be great with us.
We look forward to it.
Okay, fantastic. Carol, Jim, Carol, thank you. And we'll see you two again soon.
Look forward to it.